Bun găsit! Cele mai importante decizii cu privire la viitorul Europei se iau aici în Parlamentul European. Acesta este motivul pentru care stăm de vorbă cu președinta Parlamentului European, Roberta Metsola, în cele ce urmează. Hello, thank you very much for accepting our interview.
Thank you for having me.
So, first of all, what can do the European Parliament to get Romania in the Schengen area this year?
Well, this is something that I, as President of the European Parliament, insist on not only with my colleagues in the European Parliament, where there is a huge, overwhelming majority, and has been for years, ever since actually Romania complied with all the obligations as joined the member of the European Union in order to accede to the Schengen area. As we saw last year, there was a decision that was not taken for this to happen. We saw that as a huge disappointment. I felt it myself when I went to Bucharest, and my commitment to Romania was that the European Parliament will always stand by Romania's side. Why? Because I see the transformational effect of not only membership for a country like Romania to join the European Union, as we have seen, but also to join the Schengen area when de facto you are already applying all the Schengen obligations. I will do my very best to make sure that it happens, and it happens as soon as possible.
What can do the European Union to secure his borders?
For this, actually this week we have voted on a very important package of legislative initiatives in the migration field. Very important challenge for us. In 2019, last European elections, member states, including in Romania, our citizens told us, we need you to tackle migration. Migration is not an issue that is one that is faced by one member state alone, but by the whole of Europe. The reality is, especially in a post-COVID situation, that we are going to continue to see influxes. On the positive side, we have seen a huge solidarity, especially by Romania, in welcoming Ukrainians into their homes and their hearts. It showed the European true solidarity on display. When we talk about our migration policy, what do we say? We need to have a comprehensive one that is fair with those who are in need of protection, one that is firm with those who are not. In other words, our return policy has to be strong, and also one that is very decisive and very strong on those who traffic or prey on the most vulnerable people on the planet. That means securitization of our external borders, making sure our procedures are the same wherever there are external borders. It makes a difference between whether it is a land or a sea border. The situation is very, very volatile and very vulnerable in certain countries. Making sure that frontline member states are helped, and making sure that our agencies, such as Frontex, for example, or EASO, so these are migration embassies, agencies, are there to help the member states who are on the front line.
How and under what conditions European sanctions can target the oligarch in the Republic Moldova?
Well, for us, whatever we would apply for whoever abuses of sanctions, abuses of international law, commits crimes on which there is universal jurisdiction, we look at what the United States, what the United Kingdom has done. We look at what we have done over the past 1 year with regards to sanctions in Russia and Belarus, and I would always say that whatever has to be applied is also applied with regards to oligarchs everywhere.
Apart from foundings, how and can the access of the procession of the Republic of Moldova can be supported?
For the EU?
For the EU.
Well, first of all, you mentioned funding, very important, crucial for Moldova, and here I would like to salute its leadership, very strong President Maria Smarandache that has steered her country in a very, very difficult time, very vulnerable time, one where pressures continue to be felt. I welcome very much the visit of the President of the European Council, Charles Michel, there yesterday. A very strong signal of European solidarity and support. Funding is important. Political help is important, but also the condemnation of any illegalities is important. Judicial reforms are important. When we talk about the welcoming of Moldova as becoming a candidate country for the European Union, this was no insignificant day. It was done specifically in order to send the strongest of message that Moldova belongs in the European family. Furthermore, when we talk about what we do for Ukraine, we should talk about doing it for Moldova. If we're going to talk about the extension of the roaming agreement to Ukraine, we should talk about that for Moldova. When we talk about extension of programs, whether funding, research, education, exchange programs, anything that gives those young people hope. I have also met with many young Moldovans who look to Europe as their home. We should do exactly the same for Moldova.
And the last question. Figures show growing Euroscepticism. In those conditions, new alliance with extremist formation would be acceptable?
Now, for me, I look at this parliament, but also across the European Union, as one that needs to focus on the constructive pro-European centre. In this House, majorities that we have found over this past year on climate, on digital, on the war, on inflation, on price caps, on sanctions packages would not have been possible without that constructive pro-European centre. It is easy to say populists can run on headlines. I would like to counter that. I counter that narrative by explaining our message, communicating it, and making people be convinced that they can vote for politicians that are different, that look at politics as a force for good, and that can actually make a change for the positive in people's lives.
Thank you very much for accepting our interview.
Thank you.
Good luck next year.
Thank you.